Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Hey everybody, this is JB and Madison. Welcome to the Texas Tailgate Talk podcast, the show that deep dives into Texas sports scene for people who love football, basketball, and all the likes. So, let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Texas Tailgate Talks. Today it is finally time, y'all. High school football in Texas is back. College football is out this weekend, and the pros are right around the corner. I'm super excited, so let's get right into the episode.
High school football is officially back in Texas. This past week, we had a few big upsets and big wins. Let's start by those big upsets.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a huge upset, but College Station lost to Lovejoy by 25 last week. Lovejoy really flexed their muscles. College Station has a couple good running backs. One of them is garnering some D1 attention, but Lovejoy really just wanted to show out and saying, hey, we're the top team this year. We're going to show you guys what we're made of. Another big loss was Kilgore lost to Carthage by 35. Granted, Carthage is the top team in 4A Division 2, but Kilgore being a top 10 team in 4A Division 1 really goes to show you the disparity between Carthage and anybody else. Probably my favorite game of the week, though, was San Antonio Brennan and Cibolo Steel in the Alamo Dome. Brennan ended up losing by 1 to Cibolo at the very end of the game, but they came in ranked number 4 with Cibolo not even ranked at all. Now they're ranked 16 with Cibolo jumping up one ahead at 15. This is going to be a really big game at the end of the season with the San Antonio schools.
Now let's go ahead and jump into the big wins.
Probably the biggest win of the week, especially in the Dallas area, was Arlington Martin taking down the juggernauts of Lake Travis. As you know, Lake Travis in the Austin area is like the king. It is going to be your top program probably in Austin area history, and Martin going down and beating them by a touchdown shows how good this Arlington Martin team can be, basically solidifying them to being a top 10 school in 6A. Another big win this week was A&M Consolidated beating Huntsville. Now, Consol is a high-ranked team in 5A, but they went down and beat Huntsville by 25. Huge game, huge win for Consol there. But this week they play a team from Mexico, so it's going to be really weird how the rankings might shake up. Even if they win big, the competition just isn't as much.
So I hear there's some really good games coming up this Friday. Hear that it's pretty stacked in the Dallas area.
Stacked is an understatement. You've got Denton Geyer versus Aledo. You've got South Oak Cliff, who won state last year, versus Lancaster. You've got Argyle versus Lovejoy in a 5A Division 2 and Division 1 battle. Arlington Martin playing another tough team in Cedar Hill. Heck, you even have Duncanville playing a school out of Florida. Duncanville's a top 10 team in the state, but they're just saying we'll play anyone anytime. South Lake Carroll versus Flower Mound Marcus. And then we shift east. You've got the 4A showdown in East Texas with Kilgore versus Gilmer. Those two teams hate each other, and they're going to be a fun game to watch. Also, if we go smaller school, you've got Malakoff versus Grandview and two top 5 teams in 3A. Going to be a really, really fun weekend in high school.
This Saturday is the official week 1 of college football. Last week we did have a few games which dipped our toes into the water, made us all the more ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, week 1 is always one of those weird weeks because there are a couple quote-unquote big games in Texas, but the only two that are really worth noting is Houston versus UTSA, and then also SMU versus North Texas. For the most part, that's it. You've got TCU at Colorado, but TCU is 2 touchdown favorites. And then you have your pay-to-win games, which is going to be A&M versus Sam Houston.
Okay, but I hear we can't count out Sam Houston. Last year they ended their season 11-1.
Yeah, even though this is the 13th time they've been playing, A&M is 12-0, and they're 30-point favorites. Sam Houston doesn't stand a chance. A&M, barring some crazy miracle and maybe some crazy injuries, heaven forbid, then this game's not even going to be close. The next couple games, you've got Texas Tech versus Murray State. Again, not going to be very close. Baylor versus Albany. And then UL Monroe versus Texas, which actually might end up being the closest game of those 4. But Texas is 38-point favorite, so there's not going to be any big upsets this week. And now for the predictions. We have Houston versus UTSA, which a lot of people are saying Houston's going to win this game. They have a lot of talent, but don't count out what Jeff Traylor's been doing. UTSA, I think, is going to come out, and I think they're going to steal this game by a field goal. SMU versus North Texas, I think, might be a little bit closer of a game than people are giving them credit for, but I think SMU takes that win. TCU going to Colorado. A&M had a trouble with Colorado last year with their defense, plus A&M had a backup QB in for most of the game. So I think TCU is going to win that, probably by a couple touchdowns at least. A&M versus Sam Houston, not even going to be close. A&M's getting the win. Same thing for Texas Tech, Baylor, and Texas. Not even going to be close. Probably over 30-point wins for each of them. The only exception is Texas Tech might slip up with it being Joey McGuire's first game as a head coach in the college ranks. Now we're going to go ranked versus ranked teams. Because they're not Texas teams, we're not going to spend a lot of time. But the first one that's going to be notable is going to be Oregon versus Georgia, which I have Georgia winning that after coming off a national championship. I don't think there's going to be any sort of hangover. I think they win that pretty handedly. Then we have Arkansas versus Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's going to be really good this year, but having to replace so many key players on their offense and defensive side in a program that just doesn't have the recruits that big schools have, I think Arkansas is going to come away with that win, but I think it's going to be really close. And then what I think is going to be the most lopsided victory in the ranked versus ranked is Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Ohio State's number 3 in the nation. Notre Dame's number 5. So in theory, it should be a little closer. But the top 3 teams in the country this year are just above and beyond, light years ahead of everybody else. Plus Notre Dame, they choke in the big games. I think Ohio State wins this by 3 touchdowns. Y'all, it is finally fall. Football season is here. College is this weekend. High school is this weekend. And then we've got the NFL right around the corner. We'll be covering a lot of the Dallas Cowboys and the Texans. Go Kaufman, beat Crandall this week. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all of the latest from Texas Tailgate Talks, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TX Tailgate Talks. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.